la la la, yeah, 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 yeah. So there's one part of the song I'm actually okay with. Peacemaker, episode 8, Full Nelson, season finale. Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the end of Peacemaker. And it's your boy Icon with another DC television review for you. Coming fresh off of Comic-Con. Like last night I was at New York Comic-Con and I'm tired. But the video for New York Comic-Con will be up either later today, or it'll be up tomorrow. So definitely check that out when when you get the chance. Hit the notification bell, like it or subscribe. Check out my other reviews for Peacemaker, my previous 7-episode reviews for Peacemaker, because ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end. And not a lot of action in this one. There was a lot of talking and a lot of character development, but it was still entertaining. We didn't get like a full-blown assault, that we thought we could have got. Because this season really did focus more on like the individual characters. It wasn't just about Peacemaker. We touched, like, each character had like certain things about their personal life that we didn't get a chance to see before. So, and because of that, you do have to, by adding that, it does take away from the action element of it, but that's okay because it was still enjoyable and it was still a good episode, especially at the end. So the episode actually starts, because we're going to break this up into pieces. It takes place 1 month before the season starts, where Hardcore and Amelia, that's what we're calling her now, where Amelia and Chris, this is after season 1, like the two of them, they went on a date. And they went to a boat rock concert. And then during that boat rock concert, they ended up making out. They kissed. She freaked out. And then she left. And that's how the whole thing started, with him saying, like, oh, did the boat mean anything to the boat? I thought they had sex. But apparently they just kissed. And that was enough to freak her out, because she felt like she's damaged. And there's no reason why, Chris should be in love with her and, and all this other nonsense. So that was basically that. So now fast forward, Chris, he's in prison. And, he doesn't want to, like, they've actually been trying to visit him. They've been coming to the prison, like all the members of the team. They've been coming to the prison, to try to see him and try to visit him. But he doesn't want to have anything to do with them, because in his words, he's the angel of death. Rick Flag Sr., his dumbass now, he got his hands on the portal. And he has Lex Luthor's entire team working on the Dimensional Rift, because Flag is working with Lex Luthor. And, and real quick, in the world of superhero television and movies, every single time they race swap a character, like, the internet is like in an uproar. And sometimes it is justified. There are certain situations where race swapping I don't agree with, and there are other situations where I'm like, well, as long as it makes sense, I don't really mind. But Otis is black, and first of all, his name is Otis. He's Otis, and Otis has been race swapped into a black person, and the internet is completely quiet about that one. And there's no Mercy Graves either, because if you gotta have Otis, you gotta have Mercy. Because on Titans, they had Mercy Graves, and she was black, because I was calling her the Black Mercy. That's a joke if you get the Superman lore. But it was just something I realized. I was just like, yeah, Otis is black, and no one's mad about that. But anyway, I guess he's not an important enough character. So now they're going through the portal. Flag's got the entire team. Amelia, she's back on the team. She's back with Argus, because she got her job back after bringing in the Peacemaker. And, her, along with Bordeaux and the black dude, I think his name is Perry, the black dude that I can't stand, because he's still not funny. He's still not funny, and he's still annoying. They're going into the room between worlds where all the doors are, and they're trying to open doors and find doors, because they're looking for something specific. They don't know what they're looking for. Well, they were told that they're looking for an inhabitable empty world, like a world that doesn't have anybody on it, but also has like natural resources, like water, air, basically it's similar to Earth, but there's just no one there. And Amelia assumed, she said, well, they're probably looking for an Earth like that so we can use it, for its resources for our world. And then that's when John was like, nah, he was like, when have we ever done anything that was beneficial for like the good of the people? So now there's like this montage with them going through different doors. Some of the doors are locked. Some doors they go into, there's like a zombie world. There's another world where like Skull Spider-Men are like terrorizing the planet. They go through another world where where the trees, like candy canes, grow out of the trees, and lollipops grow out of the grass and everything. And that world was full of like these fairy monsters that tried to kill them. But while they're going through these doors, and while we're going through the montage, because they have different soldiers. Like there was groups of like 7 or 8, like 3 to 4 groups of 7 that were going to each individual doors. And these people were dying as a result of trying to find a new world. There was even a moment where they opened one door and it sucked them into outer space and it was about to put them through a vortex. Flag took a picture of that. He sent it to Lex Luthor, and Lex Luthor replied and said, well, this looks promising. And I was like, damn, like, what is this man trying to do with these doors? I'm like, how is that promising? But, you know, like one guy, he died because he got eaten by the fairy monsters. Like other people got shot by the zombies. They got eaten by the zombies. Like it was all these different things. And Perry, the black dude, he was watching all of his soldiers, like all of his fellow, you know, teammates dying one after one after one, and their groups was getting smaller and smaller. Meanwhile, while the soldiers are out there going through these doors, getting killed and getting murdered, Flag and the Luthor gang, they're just standing back in the, you know, in the control room, just laughing, yucking it up, doing drugs and popping champagne and laughing. And I'm like, this shit isn't funny because people are dying. I thought it was very weird. They didn't come across the Nazi world. Like they didn't come across the door with the Nazi thing on it because I mean, unless it was locked, you know what I'm saying? Like you know, that was one thing where, cause I thought what was going to happen was, I thought they were going to find the Nazi world. They were going to open the door, and then Chris's brother was going to fly through the door and then look for Chris and try to kill him. They didn't even bring up the Nazi world, so it's like, I don't even think they found that door. But eventually, they ended up finding this one place where it was basically Earth. It had grass, it had trees, it had running water, like the air was breathable. It was perfectly fine. They took pictures of it, and they gave it to Flag. Flag goes to the Pentagon, and he's just like, look, we found a world that's inhabitable. So then the Secretary of State, I guess, because these are all the same people that were in the Superman movie that were at the Pentagon, because Flag was there too. They were just like, okay, so this world, you think it's a good world where we can build our metahuman prison? And then Flag was like, no, this world is the prison. The same way how Lex Luthor had his own pocket dimension where he had kidnapped, you know, like metahumans and had them imprisoned inside this pocket dimension. Lex, along with Flag, they found a world where they were basically going to take metahuman criminals and just dump them on this planet and leave them there. And then the Secretary of State, he's just like, okay, so this planet is beautiful. It hasn't been touched by human society. It has clean air. It has clean water. It has beautiful resources. He's like, this doesn't sound like a punishment. And then that's when Flag was like, it's not about a punishment. He said, it's just about getting these motherfuckers off the planet. And that was totally a Lex thing. Like when he said that, like, Lex fed him that line. Like that was all Lex. Lex was just like, Lex just wants to get these motherfuckers off the planet. But they specifically said metahuman prisoners. So Superman wouldn't apply, you know, as far as like going to that prison. So I guess like the Secretary of State, like they kind of like approved it. Bordeaux felt some kind of way about it because one, she considers herself a metahuman because she's a cyborg. And I feel like she's more of an enhanced person. She's not a metahuman, but like metahumans are more like biological, like enhanced people, the ones with the technology and shit in them. But anyway, she considers herself a metahuman. She didn't like where this was going. She called Amelia, and then she came down to the Big Belly Burger, which was made famous by the Arrowverse. And then they had a conversation. She told Amelia, she said, look, Flag, you know, he betrayed us. He used Peacemaker. He's basically using this world to send, you know, metahumans there as a prison. Amelia was just like, well, that's the job, you know, like that's what we signed up for. And then Bordeaux was like, I didn't sign up for that shit, and that's not something that I want to do. And then, you know, Amelia was like, well, I didn't have my job for 2 years. And then she was like, you know, you learn after 2 years, this is who you are. And then she was like, nah, she was like, I don't fuck with this shit. So then that's when Amelia was just like, well, I have somebody that you could talk to. So they go and they talk to Adebayo, Ads, we're calling her Ads now. They go and talk to Adebayo, and Adebayo basically pitched to her the idea of, because remember, she was trying to start a security firm in the beginning of the season. So she pitched that idea to Bordeaux, and Bordeaux, I guess, was feeling the idea, and they decided to come together and build a security company. Adebayo then goes to Adrian Chase, and she convinces Adrian Chase to use his blood money to bail Chris out of prison. Because, like, it was funny because Chase's whole thing was, he said, I'm not going to use this money to bail Chris out because it's blood money and that would be wrong. He's like, why don't we just go threaten the judge's life instead? And I'm just like, really? Like, so you're, and that's what Adebayo was like, what part of you thinks that you're the good guy? And then, you know, but then she told him, she said, yes, it's blood money, but Chris is supposed to be your friend. You're supposed to be his best friend, like his bestie or whatever. So she said, you know, it's disappointing because I thought that you were a better friend to him than I was, but apparently you're not even willing to spend blood money to hire a real lawyer or post his bail to get him out of prison. So then he felt bad, and then he gave Adebayo the money. She posted the bail. Chris didn't want to go because he was just like, he said, give the money back, I'm not leaving. And they were just like, yeah, that's not how it works. So so they kick him out, and then he goes and grabs his eagle. He goes and gets Eagly, and then after he gets Eagly, he basically stays at a hotel because he planned on leaving town. When they find out about the metahuman prison, Bordeaux, John, and Amelia, they get together, and they were on the computer. And like the weird white guy with the glasses and the weird porn mustache, he was there and he was doing his thing on the computer. Bordeaux was trying to find Chris because When Chris posted bail and then he disappeared and then they were trying to find him, somebody said, "Can't you just track him with the chip in his head?" And then Amelia said, "No, because we don't have Peacemaker access anymore." So he does have a chip in his head. Earlier in the episode, when the soldiers were going through the dimensional portal, Flag asked John, he said, "Are we still tracking the guys?" And he said, "No, because once they go through the portal, we can't detect them anymore and their trackers just go offline." So now they asked Bordeaux, because she still has Peacemaker clearance, they asked her to track the chip on Chris's head so they can find where Chris is. More on that chip later. So she finds him, she does and she said that the dude with the mustache, he can see on his monitor what she's doing. So they asked John for a distraction. So my whole thing is, can he see that? Was she talking about the computer, or was she talking about they can see? Because the thing is, because she's a cyborg, I feel like someone is watching what she's doing through her eyes. And I feel like it's Amanda Waller, because if she's a cyborg and has all these parts in it, I refuse to believe nobody put a camera in this woman's eye. But anyway, so they track Peacemaker. They find him at a hotel. Everybody runs up on him. Chase actually drop kicked him, clotheslined him, tased him, and knocked him out. They bring him back to the hotel, and then he was just like, that's when he told him, he was like, "Look, you guys are forcing me to be here." He was like, "I don't want to be here." And then they were just like, "Oh, this is the kumbaya moment," where Adebayo was like, "I love you, man. Like, you're my best friend. And because of you, I have hope and I believe in miracles." And Chase was like, "You're my best friend." And, he's like, "I don't want to do cool shit without you." They said John even loves you, although he's a coward. And then Amelia was like, "Oh, I'm here for you too, Chris." And I was like, bullshit. And then they were just like, they said that, they have an idea to start, like a new security firm, but they need Christopher Smith to be a part of that, because that's Peacemaker and he's their boy. So, after the kumbaya and they all held hands and sing "This Land Is Your Land," Chris, he agreed, and, everybody came back together. They started the firm. So now with their new security firm, it's the 11th Street Kids, obviously led by Peacemaker. John's there, so I guess he quit Argus. Adebayo's there. Bordeaux is on their team. So I guess because I assume she quit Argus because she's working with them at the security firm. Judo Master's on their team, so I guess Judo Master quit too. And Perry's on the team, so I'm like, how many? So it's weird because all these people that were working for Argus quit Argus. They're working for this new security firm led by the Peacemaker and the 11th Street Kids. And I'm like, so Rick Flag's just perfectly fine with that. Nobody's tracking these people. Nobody's trying to find out what these people are really doing. Nobody's just like, "Hey, we lost 4 agents." You know what I'm saying? Like, we should look into that. That was weird to me, that they were just allowed to quit Argus and join the security firm. And that's even if they quit. We don't even know. Adrian found somebody in Perry that likes to quiz him on dumb shit. Adebayo broke up with her wife officially. Nobody cared. John and Eagly shared a moment. Amelia and Chris got back together, I guess, because, she told him because when they agreed that they were going to do this, he asked her one more time. He was like, "Did the boat mean anything to you?" And then she was like, "Of course it did." She was like, "It meant everything." And then they had a scene where the two of them went back on the boat and they were like hugging and kissing and everything. So I guess the two of them are like an item now. I guess they're a thing now. And then after that, so everything's fine. Like, everything's hunky-dory. The team is back together. They got their new security firm funded by Adrian Chase's blood money, and all is right with the world. Or so we thought. Chris, for some reason, he's still sleeping in the motel. And when he went back to his motel room, Argus ran up on him, threw a bag over his head, and they dragged him back to, to Argus headquarters. Flag said Otis came up with a way to open a dimensional portal from our world to the new world that they found, so they don't have to go through the room with all the doors anymore. Otis don't look that smart, but whatever. So now they open the door. It's a door to the new world, like the new empty world with the grass and all that other stuff. They throw Peacemaker into it, and then he's like, "Oh, what the fuck, Flag?" And then he was like, "Well, this world is supposed to be our new metahuman prison, and we need to make sure that it's safe for them before we bring them here. So thank you for volunteering as a test subject." And then he was like, "I didn't volunteer for this shit." And then one of his goons was like, "Oh, Peacemaker's signature is right here." So they forged the signature and they threw him into the world. And then he told him, he was like, "This is for killing my son, you son of a bitch." And then they closed the portal, and now Christopher Smith is stranded on this. He's the first person because this world is supposed to be a metahuman prison, but he was the first person they put on that world. He has no weapons, no nothing, no food. He can't survive. He hears like weird animals in the background. He's trapped in a world in an alternate dimension. That was how the episode ended, with Rick Flag like laughing at that shit, like standing tall. And thank you for tuning in for the season finale of Peacemaker. Now, my theory on this, when they were dragging him through Argus and dragging him through the room and with the bag over his head, they showed a shot of a woman. They had a wide shot of them bringing him over to the door. There was a woman standing there, and you could only see her from the back, and I swear it did look like Bordeaux. I don't know if it was Bordeaux because we never saw her face, but from behind it did look like Bordeaux. And if it is Bordeaux, I'm confused because you just showed her with the 11th Street kids working at the new security firm. So is she a double agent? Is she secretly like shitting on the 11th Street kids? Is she spying on behalf of Rick Flag? Is somebody controlling her because she is a robot, because she is part cyborg? Or does Flag not know that she's teamed up with the 11th Street kids and she still has all her Argus access and all her Argus clearance? But again, I don't even know if that was her, but it looked like it was her from behind. So we'll see what happens in that case. Now, my theory on this whole thing, because James Gunn did do a panel at Comic-Con, and I believe he did say we're not going to get another Peacemaker series maybe for like a year or so, like a year and a half or so, but Peacemaker will appear on other people's movies, TV shows, on other people's projects. So we're still going to get Peacemaker, but it's going to be a while before we get another Peacemaker series. My whole thing is this: if Chris stays in that dimension, for the next 2 years, and we don't get a Peacemaker season 3 for another 2 years, his brother Keith on Earth X is still in play. And everybody has to remember that Keith is still in play. My prediction is Keith still has access to his door. He still has access to his dimensional portal. I feel that Keith is going to go through his dimensional portal looking for Chris. He's going to make his way to our world. He's going to pull up on the 11th Street kids. And then once they realize that, because also with the chip in Chris's brain, because when they're just like, oh, what happened to Chris? What happened to Chris? John is going to do something where he's like, oh, I can't track the chip in his head. And then John's going to remember, when we had trackers and the Argus agents, and the Argus agents went through the portal, the signal for their tracker immediately died. Chris's signal is dead, so he probably got sent to another dimension. They're going to put 2 and 2 together, and because his brother Keith has access to a dimensional portal, they're going to use Keith's portal to go find Chris in whatever dimension Chris is in, because Amelia knows what door he's in. So Keith is going to be the key to them getting Chris out of that dimension. That's good. But things, that's my prediction, but things could change because, like I said, we can, like, Lanterns is the next project. I don't know, how that's going to affect the Peacemaker, but they did say Peacemaker was going to pop up in other people's stuff, which is crazy because if he's on a stranded planet, how's he going to show up in other people's shit? But, I'm looking forward to the ride to see where everything goes from here. Like I said, thank you all for tuning in for Peacemaker, and we look forward to seeing what happens as we roll on. So check out my other reviews, my previous 7 reviews for Peacemaker. Check out my video for Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con 2025, when it debuts later on, either today or tomorrow. And like I said, let's keep it locked, because the next DC show that's supposed to come out is the Lantern series. So we're definitely going to review the Lantern series. Daredevil, they did show a trailer for Daredevil Born Again season 2 at Comic-Con. So that's supposed to come out soon. And I believe we're also getting a Vision TV series. So there's going to be some stuff coming up in 2026, like the Supergirl or whatever. I don't think we're going to get anything at the end of 2025. So we might be done in 2025 for a while, but definitely in 2026 there's going to be so much to come out, so many things to come out. And if it turns out we don't get anything for the remainder of 2025, then I'm just going to review like some anime and like other things that I find for Red Eyes Entertainment and for all of you. So like I said, check me out on social media. Check me out on X, on Instagram, on TikTok, where you can leave your questions, comments, and concerns, always on YouTube. And like I said, check out all my other stuff, and we'll keep rolling on as the superhero goodness continues. So that was it, guys. So thanks for tuning in. So until next time for some more Peacemaker action and some more DC action and superhero action, keep it locked for peace, and we're out this.